God bless everyone. My name is Roel Sicanterno and I'm going to discuss the gender analysis tool. So there are four gender analysis tools and the number one is the Harvard Analytical Framework. The Harvard Analytical Framework is also known as the Gender Rules Framework. It was published in 1985 and was one of the first frameworks to carry out gender analysis. The aim of the framework was to identify and understand the economic differences between men and women in a community. The framework provides a guideline to plan and design efficient policies and projects to improve the productivity of women and men. One of the part of the Harvard framework is the activity profile, which inquires about who does what for all relevant farm, home, and community tasks. In activity profile, they are involved such as who does what, when, or where. And the table shows the example of Harvard Analytical Framework. In different activities, there's a table that determines which rule can suitably fit in that specific task, such as these reproductive activities where gender is the most involved in these given activities. Harvard Analytical Framework is way more efficient and easy to use. Number two is the Moser Framework. The Moser Conceptual Framework or the Moser Framework was introduced in the 1980s by Caroline Moser to carry out gender analysis by challenging the traditional planning methods. The framework focuses on gender rules and gender needs. It aims to promote gender planning by empowering women and attaining equality and equity. Here is the table and example of Moser framework. As you can see, there are PRC or the reproductive, productive, and community rules, which determines the capability of every woman when it comes to different responsibilities or tasks that they have given to them. And that's all. Thank you.
Gender Analysis Matrix, or what we called GAM, is the Gender Analysis Matrix framework was developed to fulfill the gap by evaluating work at the grassroots level and by concentrating on participatory planning. The aim of the framework was to determine the intervention of development on women and men. The framework encourages analysis by the community to identify gaps and challenge their assumptions about gender rules. So as you see from this on the screen, so this is the Gender Analysis Matrix, or what we call the GAM. The analysis conducted at four levels of society: the women, men, household, and the community. The GAM examines impact on four areas, which is the labor, time, resources, and sociocultural factors. So, this matrix requires simple coding during the discussion process. So, we would be using the plus sign if the outcome is if ito ba ay consistent with community goals or cultural practices. We will be using the minus sign if the outcome is contrary to the community or goals or cultural practices. So, we will be using the question mark if the community is unsure whether the process is consistent or contrary to goals or cultural practices. So the best practices using GAM is that to be effective, each problem area needs discussion at all levels of the community with the women groups and the men groups households. And the community. So each group, if mixed, should include women and men in equal numbers. Again, this matrix needs a lot of people men and women in the community, because the process would not be we will not gonna be call it a community if the people is dili bitaw daghan. Gender analysis refers to the process of gathering information to understand. So, the relationship between men and women, their access and control of resources, their activities, and the constraints they face relative to each other. So, moreover, it provides information that recognizes the gender. It is a transformatory and technical in its approach, combining awareness, raising about gender inequalities with development, of practical skills, and it also includes men as a category and therefore can be used in interventions that target men. The categories in the matrix can expand to account for targeted populations in the exercise. So for example, if girls are the key focus, then the girls category can be added. And the GAM is a time-consuming exercise taking an average 2 to 3 hours to complete. However, once completed, the matrix can display the distinctive effects of the proposed intervention. Social relations approach. The social relations approach was developed for planning programs with an approach for the development of human well-being. The aim of the social relations approach was to analyze gender inequalities and the distribution of resources, responsibilities, and power. The framework also intended to design policies and programs that empower women to be agents of their own development. In many rural areas, women play a crucial role in agriculture but often lack ownership or control over land due to traditional gender norms and legal restrictions. This limits their ability to make decisions, access credit, or improve their livelihoods. In many rural areas, women work in farming but often cannot own land because of cultural traditions and legal restrictions. Using the social relations approach, a development program could help change this by working with different parts of society. For example, at home, families could be encouraged to support women's land ownership, and in communities, leaders and men can be involved in discussions to change traditional views. Banks could offer loans to women even if they don't have land as collateral. And for governments could make it easier for women to register land in their names. By making these changes, women would gain more control over their lives, improving their financial security and decision-making power. This approach also can focuses on changing the system, not just helping individuals to create long-term gender equality. Other example of this is the UN Women if you guys listen from the previous discussion. So UN Women, where women is only limited in power because they see women as less than a man. That's all for the continuation of our topic.